How can constructal theory explain how the USSR fell?
It's about flow. It's about movement. The Soviets, in fact, there was no opposition to the crumbling of the USSR. If you really look at what happened in the USSR, Yeltsin took over, and you didn't see people invading the public square, you know, crying for communism to be preserved. Not a single one.
Hmm.
Uh, Everybody was fed up with the nonsense. They were starving, really. They did not have clothes on themselves. They were basically, as I said, bolted to the ground. Their best scientists did not have access to ideas from the West because their academies could not didn't have money to buy journals, and I I lived through that period because I was in the business of Xeroxing papers and mailing them to all sorts of people behind the Iron Curtain. They had nothing that you take for granted. And
Okay.
if they had a relative abroad who had the money to make place a phone call into the so-called communist paradise, there were people listening to the telephone call and interrupting the connection if the discussion became dangerous to the regime.
I mean, I know the Soviets, at least the Russians, had this envelope ungluer and regluer to also check private mail because at a certain
Sure,
point,
sure. Yeah, yeah.
private mail was illegal. That's actually how Alexander Solzhenitsyn got arrested. So,
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. By the way, did you see the East German, sorry, German, but from a movie called The Lives of Others?
no, I didn't.
Make a note. Watch it. It's about that, but it was how it was happening in East Germany. Now, East Germany was a lot more humane than Romania during communism.
That's true.
But this Lives of Others is about how everything was about the Stasi eavesdropping on the citizen. Uh, it's scary. If you watch that movie, scary. It begins with torturing a person through sleep deprivation. That's what happened to my mother when she disappeared. She was tortured the same way. When I watched that movie, I I remembered my mother talking about what happened to her.
Wow.
For I think it was 6 days in a row,
Awake.
she was prevented from sleeping because it's called Securitate in Romania, and the secret police
Hmm.
wanted to extract secrets from her. Fortunately, she knew nothing. So when she became delirious, she could not say anything that was of value to these animals. But you see it in the movie The Lives of Others, which was a highly decorated movie, got all sorts of awards. The victim in the movie actually knew something, and he ends up incriminating himself and others when he
Hmm.
spills these secrets. It's really, really disgusting what they're doing. Uh,
I mean, it was so disgusting. One guy could write a Bible's worth of suffering, right?
and these are the same people as where you come from, I come from, the same people. I mean, same people. You can call it all you want, Central Europe or whatever crap. No, and they did it. By this time, East Germany had its own communist hierarchy,
Hmm.
which was in place, the benefiting from the regime compared with the average East German worker or peasant. Uh, I mean, there are private people driving cars in East Germany, and those people were high up in the hierarchy. Uh,
Okay, this is actually a something that we could kind of discuss since we're on this topic of communism. How could it have been more attractive than what was going on before then? So like from like a constructal view, how does communism offer something that might facilitate mobility for people back in the early 1900s, even if the idea came from the 1800s?
Well, the problem with meaning the answer it's impossible. Communism from the get-go was a design, the design consisting of closing down the channels. Okay,
True.
because Marx had come up with this theory that private the property had to be abolished,
Abolished. Yeah.
and that meant that the designer, called the entrepreneur, uh, or the person with the idea, was not allowed, not allowed. It was the state. The concept of collectivism comes from there, that
Hmm.
meaning a brutal misunderstanding of the concept of economies of scale, the idea that everything comes from the big group, and by the way, it's so stupid now that I hear myself speaking these words. And so the answer to what you bring up is impossible. No, everybody knew, actually, the people who were educated properly in economics and the history of civilization knew that what was being imposed by the Soviet Union was inferior, even worse than feudalism, inferior, because it denied the power of the individual to create. Simply denied that. The individual was well, that is the individual under communism is the enemy of the group called the class. There are
True.
two classes. It was the proletariat and the factory owners,
The
and
bourgeoisie.
well, okay, bourgeoisie actually is not a bad word. It means city folk. But yes, the ones who had money in the bank and other they had money to buy tickets to travel and to build their own houses and all of this, and they were eliminated. They were actually killed or chased away. But I think killing was a lot cheaper. And Oh, that's look at the history of everybody who escaped from Bolshevism in the first 2 or 3 years after Bolshevism, and they ran for their lives, and they ran to o- to ports, harbors like Odessa and other places. Constanza in Romania was another exit point, people escaping on boat to Istanbul and then beyond to Western Europe. Um, uh, I, the story goes that all of Polish intelligentsia and national treasure and the government escaped in 1939 through Romania, um, on Romanian trains.
Hmm.
Uh, and they ended up in Britain. Poland fought with the Allies against the Germans coming from Britain, uh, the Polish army.
Right.
And that amounted to no good because Poland was gobbled up by the USSR. Uh, I mean, these are highly advanced societies.
Yes.
Uh, Not as advanced as Czechoslovakia, by the way, at that time, but definitely European, unlike uh, the inferior culture that was imposed, which was that of the mighty Soviet citizen.
So one other pro argument for Marxism is that it was a way to flatten hierarchies and to abolish the aristocracy. In a system where there is aristocracy, which has existed, like the Tsarist regime in Russia was very aristocratic. How like how does the constructed law prefer one or the other or abolish
Well, the
both?
constructal law is about everything, including Marxism and communism, because as soon as a communist regime was imposed on a previously democratic country, that includes the constitutional monarchies, peaceful for centuries under that kind of setup. As soon as communism was imposed and the existing hierarchy was eliminated, overnight a new hierarchy took place. A communist hierarchy, one in which the winning class, meaning the winner of the class struggle, the proletariat, had no say. They were once again at the very bottom, equally unimportant in the very bottom.
Hmm.
And hierarchy is a natural, universal phenomenon in nature. It is the only way to set a group in motion.
Right. I mean, you wrote that in your book as well, where what the constructal law predicts is that hierarchy should emerge naturally as a result of the tendency of moving things to generate designs that facilitate flow access. The
Right,
constructal law also predicts that the rigid hierarchy will give way in time to a freely morphing hierarchy. This is why dictatorships are relatively short-lived, democracies have staying power.
right. And also why dictatorships uh, shortly after they're imposed, they become hierarchies, or if you want, there's another word for it, mafias
Mm,
in their own right, yes, mafias, but the mafia has a hierarchy, has a structure, it has a boss, and then henchmen, and all sorts of informers, and all these things, but those things arrive naturally because that is the way to run the business in this so-called dark network. But
right.
it may be dark to the outsider, meaning the outsider does not see the structure of the mafia because it is secret. But that structure is the hierarchy that's handed down by nature itself.